All right, welcome back to Illustrator. This week we're actually going to cover two chapters, and we're going to start with chapter 8, which is using color to enhance signage. The signage is just what our practice file is this year, but basically we're going to learn how to use color in Illustrator. And since my computer takes forever, let's start by opening our file. And we do need to get into lesson 8 of our Illustrator 2020 lesson file. And we're going to open the file L8 start and get that going. Well, look how fast things are going now. So in this lesson, we're going to learn about the different color modes and how we work with each of them. We're going to name and save colors. We're going to look at paint appearance attributes and apply those. And there's a color guide panel that is quite interesting that I'll share with you. There's an option to recolor your artwork, which is really helpful. And there's live paint groups. So without further ado, let's get into this. Let's save this file, give it a new name. So File, Save As. And we are going to call this one Your Name and then Festival. All right, and once we have that all set, we are ready to move on. We're going to talk about color modes again. I know we've been talking about this in Photoshop, and if you're in Design Fundamentals, the same goes. But in Illustrator, there are many ways to experiment with and apply color. The number one thing is, what is your output? You have to think about that first. Is this going to print or is it going to web? Because those are two completely different color spaces. So anything going to print is going to be in the CMYK color space. And I can see up here in my tab that this is in the CMYK color space. Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black are the 4 inks that are used in 4-color printing, and they're combined and overlap to make all of the colors we see in print. If this were meant to be a web graphic, we would be working in the RGB color space, the red, green, blue, and that's light sources mixed together to give us our different colors. So when you do create new documents in Illustrator, I'll just go through this dialog. You guys know that you can choose some of these presets. So if we happen to be working with a print preset, it's automatically going to put us in the CMYK color space, and it's going to know that if we ask Illustrator to rasterize this, in other words, turn it from vector art into something that we can use as a raster image, it will do it at a high quality 300 pixels per inch. If we start with a web document, it's going to put us in the RGB color mode, and it knows that if it has to rasterize to be used on a website, it's going to have to go into 72 pixels per inch, which is web resolution. You can change the color mode after you've started a file, so it's not like you have to get it right from point 1. If you go under File, Document Color Mode, here it shows us that we are in CMYK, but we could switch to RGB color if we needed to. So you can change it after the fact as well. So in this lesson, we're going to learn about the traditional methods of coloring, which is also called painting by old world standards in Illustrator, and there's a lot of ways we can do it. We have the Properties panel, we have a Swatch panel, we have a Color Guide panel, a Color Picker, and we have actual paint options in our toolbar. So one thing of note before we get going is the toolbar in Illustrator. At the bottom, it looks similar to Photoshop, but it's different in that those of you in Photoshop know we have foreground and background colors. But here we have our fill color and our stroke color. Those are our two options to set, and whichever one is on top is active. So if we were to change our fill color here to be orange and click on something, it would change the fill of the item that we selected, not the stroke. If we click to bring the stroke to the front and we change that to be orange and we clicked on one of these shapes, it would simply change the stroke color. So whichever one of these is stacked on top is the active one. So when you're applying color, it's going to be applied to whichever of these is active. All right, applying existing colors. I'm just going to close that out. Every document in Illustrator comes with a series of default colors that are available to you in the swatches panel. And first thing we're going to do is just apply an existing color to our shape. So let's make sure that we're looking at artboard number 1, which is the festival sign, and that will bring it to fit in window for us. And with our selection tool, we're going to click to select this red guitar shape. All right, here's my bounding box. I'm going to zoom out just a smidge so that you can see the bounding box, but it's the red guitar shape that is chosen right now. If we look at our properties panel, we see that our fill is red and our stroke is this tan color, which makes sense. We see this tan stroke and a red fill. We're going to come over and we're going to click on the fill box, and we have two options. We have swatches and a color mixer. So the swatches are the default colors that come with the file, and some have been added to this, but most of them do show up with this basic, 3 rows, some patterns, the black to gray, white to white scale, and possibly something else. But this one specifically has the grays and the brights are added. So we are currently working with CMYK red. We see the little white box around it. As we hover over others, we get a tooltip that either gives us the name of the color or the color makeup as it's mixed with cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So the one that we want to choose is the one that's named orange. So eventually we're going to find one that just has a name here. Somewhere. There it is. It's down below. It's something that they've added. So it's not a CMYK. It's actually named orange. So we're going to click on that. And because we had something selected on the artboard, it applies it to the selection right away. To get away from this panel, we're just going to hit the escape key. And we're going to now learn how to make a custom color. There's lots of ways of doing this. We can use the color panel or color mixer. And this time we're going to start by using our selection tool, and we're going to click on this gray shape right here to select it. All right, notice again the bounding box is very large. It's not just this wavy sliver of shape, it's probably a full-size guitar that happens to be stacked underneath the orange one and moved over to the right a little bit. So with our gray option selected, we're going to come to our fill box, and we're going to click on that, and instead of using a swatch, we're going to switch to this color mixer, which looks like an artist palette that has smudges of paint on it. And from here, we see we have the color spectrum down here. And to kind of guesstimate where we want to go, we can click in one of these. So if we wanted an orange or a yellow or a green and a blue, we're going to click in the yellowish orange part, and it doesn't matter if we get it exact or what color we click on. Once we clicked in there, here's our color chip, and here's the exact makeup. And CMYK is percentages, 0 to 100% cyan, 0 to 100% magenta, etc. So in this spectrum bar, we're going to dial in some exact numbers. So if you highlight the cyan, we're going to take that to be 3%. And then if you just hit tab, it will go to your next box. So we're going to do 2%, then 98, then 0. All right, that exact color is the weird yellowy orangey green that they wanted us to get to, which is a yellow color. So any color created in this color mixer in this version is not saved anywhere except for the selected artwork. You see how it showed up here. If you want to reuse this color chip, which we probably will, we can save it as a swatch, and that's what we're going to do next. Let's hit escape to close that panel. And let's go to our selection tool and click on this black circle. In our properties panel, we're going to click on the black circle, and we're going to still be in the color mixer option. And instead of guesstimating a color down here, we're just going to directly start by typing in some numbers. We're going to do 0 cyan, 84 magenta, 100 yellow, and 0 black. And we get this bright orange color. Let's hit return. All right, so we've applied it to this piece of artwork. Let's click the fill box again to bring up our color swatch. And from here, we're going to switch to our swatch panel, and we're going to click on the new swatch icon. And that's going to bring up a window with our current color because we have this shape selected still. By default, it's going to give you the processed color coordinates, the numbers, but we can change that to have a different name. We're going to call this one dark orange. All right. We're not going to add this to our library, so this should be deselected, but if you do want to save this color to your Adobe Creative Cloud library so that it's available over all your devices or available to be shared with others, that's where you would click this on. All right, let's also notice a few other things. This is a global color, and this is turned on by default. So any new swatches that you make by default are considered global colors. And what that means is if we edit this swatch, if we come back and once it's in here, if we edit the swatch, anywhere and everywhere in our document that this dark orange color was assigned will update because it's a global color. So if we make it a little bit darker and we use it in 15 spots throughout these 4 artboards, all 15 would be updated to the darker orange. So when we're happy with that, we'll just say okay. And then if we come and look at our swatch panel, we do see our latest edition right here, dark orange. It's got a little white box around it, and it also has this white triangle in the corner. What that means is that it's a global swatch. So if you look at what came with this file, we just made this one, but there was a color up here that was made global as well. So if we were to tweak this, wherever that cyan is used in these 4 artboards, it would update. So global colors update globally. All right, we're going to leave the orange circle selected, and we're going to move on to the next section in our next video.